Hello and welcome to Season 3. Yes, Season 3 of the Drive Idaho podcast. I am your host, Vincent Trimboli, the manager for the Idaho Transportation Department's Office of Communication, and it is my pleasure to host this podcast and my pleasure to be out here in Caldwell at our maintenance shed just off of Highway 44. Today, as always, we will start our podcast with a quick I-84 construction update from Mark Campbell. And our guest this month will be TJ McNeff, one of ITD's plow operators here at the Caldwell shed. And we're going to get a chance to hit the road with TJ. We'll jump in the plow and learn more about what he does to clear snow from our state highways and, of course, Interstate 84. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Vince. Great to be here for Season 3.
So last month, Mark, we took a pretty deep dive into the transformation of I-84 in Nampa and Caldwell. How is construction coming along between Franklin Road and Karcher Midland in Nampa?
Well, Vince, as many people may know, construction is still going on I-84 in Nampa. Crews are out there right now. They're still working on the Union Pacific Railroad Bridge. That single point urban interchange that goes over Northside is what also we call a SPUI. They are also working on Northside Boulevard underneath, and they're still working on those outside lanes in between Northside Boulevard and Franklin. As you may remember, at the end of Season 2, which was quite some time ago, we talked about some upcoming ramp closures at Northside. Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record once again, but those have been delayed one more time, along with a lot of the paving that's going on through the project. I got to tell you, this COVID-19, it's the real deal. It's out there, and between that and these frigid temperatures we have at night, it has put a damper on these construction crews getting their work done.
So in essence, Mark, we've been hit by COVID with our crews out there doing the construction. And then talk about the cold weather. What's that effect? Why has that slowed down the work?
So the thing about it is, Vince, when we place this concrete, just about everything on this project is concrete right now. When we place this concrete, we can only place it if the temperatures are above a certain degree. And then we look at the overnight temperatures. They can't get below a certain degree. So we're really tied on what the temperatures are and when we can actually place this concrete.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just hope for warmer weather. And it sounds like at this point, we're looking at early spring, late winter before we're fully open. And we're just kind of at the mercy of everybody staying healthy and also the weather improving.
I'm glad you said that. You're right. It is looking like spring of 2021.
But it does look good. Drove through the corridor today on our way out here to Caldwell, and you could actually see some of the plastic on some of the concrete, which is protecting it and allowing it to cure. But we're going to get there. And when we get there, it will be a great project and certainly greatly impact the mobility and safety for drivers.
Absolutely, Vince. It's going to be great once it's done.
So, Mark, talk about what else is happening in the corridor right now.
So right now, crews are out there on the Middleton overpass. They're gearing up to start placing some girders. Those girders are those big beams, either sometimes steel, sometimes concrete. They span across the interstate. And you're going to have 7 girders that span over the eastbound lanes, and you're going to have 7 girders that span over the westbound lanes. These girders also act as the support that holds the driving surface that people drive over on these bridges.
Is this an overnight operation, Mark?
You know, when they place these girders, they will have to close the interstate. And there will be a couple of closures. We don't want any traffic going underneath this big, huge girder. Safety first, as always. So we will have a nighttime closure when we place the eastbound lane, and we will have another closure when we place the westbound lanes.
Give us a timeline on when the Middleton overpass will reopen and then what's next for Middleton.
So the Middleton overpass is expected to open in spring of 2021. As soon as that is complete and lanes are open, we will start construction on the Ustick overpass. Now, some people have been a little concerned on how we're going to stage this, but I assure everyone that we will not close Middleton or Ustick at the same time. we will wait until Middleton is fully open before we close down U-Stick. As soon as we close down U-Stick, then we will start demolishing the bridge and start working on that. And that is expected to open in late 2022.
All right. Well, thanks as always, Mark, for your participation in the Drive Idaho podcast. We'll see you next month.
All righty. Sounds good. Thanks, Vince.
As we mentioned earlier, we are here at the operations and maintenance shed in Caldwell. And so you can probably hear some of what I would call industrial sounds going on around us. The guys working, it's towards the end of a day. One shift is kind of leaving and another one is coming in for their maintenance operations. And we are joined now by our guest, TJ McNeff. TJ works here in the Caldwell maintenance office as a snowplow operator, which is kind of a common term. But first off, TJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vince.
And then tell us what they officially call you. It's TTO, but what does that stand for?
Yeah, TTO stands for Transportation Technician in Operations.
So the first question I always like to ask a guest is, what is that? What does that job title do? What do you do?
Basically, we're the hands on the road. We're the maintenance of the highways, including snow plowing. And so, we're the guys fixing signs and guardrails and potholes and basically just maintaining the safety of the highway.
TJ, you've worked for ITD for more than 8 years now. You worked on a striping crew, which is basically the crew that puts the lines down on the roads. And then you've been a plow operator for a while. You've done it long enough now. What's the best part of this job for you?
The striping is something, for me, it's pretty satisfying to know that, we're a direct result in the safety of the roads in the winter. So that's pretty huge for me. And I know we all have family members on the road, and as well as I do kind of take pride in that.
So let's talk about some parts of your job. What's a typical day in the winter like when it's snowing, when you guys are working in the plows?
Typically, you come in and you're watching the weather, which directs you on where you're going to go. So in the valley, it's really kind of hit and miss. Up north, it's pretty easy. It's going to snow everywhere. So down here, it's a constant watching of the weather. You got freezing fog, which is just as bad as heavy snow. So the typical day is you get in and watch the weather and plan out on who's going to be in and how many people you got and where you're going to go.
And we're going to jump in a truck here with you in a few moments. So when we do that, we can ask you some more specifics about what it's like being in the cockpit of a truck, which I kind of equate to a spaceship because there's a lot of bells and whistles in there that you guys have to pay attention to. When you're not in the truck in the winter, you're doing other maintenance work. That's really important, but maybe isn't as thought of as the snowplow work that you do. But talk about your jobs outside of just what you do in the winter.
Especially in the valley, we don't get snow every day. So really our summer projects move into the winter. So just like concrete on the project on Middleton, it's temperature related, but we're always doing the same maintenance through the winter, weather dependent, that we do in the summer. So there's a few things we don't do, but no, it's the safety of the highway, which is year round for us. Even on a sunny day, we're out doing almost the same thing.
And there's several different types of roadways, right? There's U.S. highways in Idaho, there's state highways, and of course there's interstates. And I think all those roads are plowed and maintained a little differently. Talk about the differences between, say, plowing on an interstate versus, say, State Highway 16, in Emmett.
Absolutely. The roads are set in a priority for us. The interstate is a priority for snow removal, and it goes down through the U.S. highway and then the state highway. So as far as that goes, the interstate is our main goal, or initially our, well, lack of better terms, it's the one we start with. The interstate is a lot different in the plowing. There's just not much structure on the sides. Our speeds are a little faster. The U.S. roads and the state highways, there's a lot of mailboxes and whatnot and curbs and stuff. So it's a lot more obstacles on your state highways, actually.
In the Office of Communication, TJ, we spend a lot of time putting out safety messages. And especially in the winter, those messages are surrounding two things: the safety of the driver, but most importantly, the safety of the people that work with us here at ITD, you and the crews you work with. Talk about the importance of how drivers act around plows.
That's pretty important. We're out there to try to make the roads as safe as possible, as quickly as possible during a storm. And, we're obligated to travel every inch of the road to clear the snow and to, treat the ice. patience is huge for us. I mean, I know you'll see us out there and we don't typically go the speed that some cars could, but any patience and, passing us on the right is a huge problem. You see us out there, just note that what we're doing is something that's supposed to last for hours, and, your commute could last minutes. So just give us a little patience and know that we're really out there traveling every inch of the road. So eventually you're going to run into us for sure.
And I always like to tell people, you've lived and grown up in this valley your whole life and you've got a family. We really want anybody at ITD, all our employees, to go home in the same condition that they arrived to work in. So just have patience. Sometimes I say, stay back, and the safest place in the storm is behind the plow. Just have patience. You may want to get moving, but boy, you're moving away from the safest place you can be.
That's true. We've had guys pass us and go sideways and then fall right back behind us. So yeah, you learn real quick that we're there doing something for sure.
Give us a storm story. What's something you remember, maybe a dangerous situation? Give us a good storm story.
It had to have been 3 years ago when everybody called the Snowmageddon. I mean, down here in the valley, we don't typically get a lot of snow. And that was a good one. It was a 16-hour, snow events. You'd leave the shed with your plow down and you'd come with your plow down. And so you'd plow a whole 12-hour shift. It was a lot of snow, right? So we never really could maintain and get the wet roads we shoot for during the storm. I like plowing heavy snow, but we have to head up north to see that. So to see it down here was pretty shocking.
Okay, well, let's jump into the truck now, TJ, and let you tell us kind of what it's like being in the cockpit of a snowplow.
All right, sounds good.
320 unit.
We're in Caldwell, Idaho, right off the interstate, Highway 44, and we're going to go out and treat the roads. This is a 2007 Mack 10-wheeler, and currently we've got a 1,800-gallon mag tank in the back. This truck's main purpose is to plow the snow off the road and also treat the road with a magnesium chloride to prevent ice. And that liquid works really good for if you ever see us on the road before a storm and wonder why we're out there. It's a pre-treatment, which actually helps the snow from adhering to the highway when the snow does come in. You can plow a foot of snow pretty easy. We treat the roads enough that the buildup's just not there. The limits, as you'll see up with the avalanches, when it becomes 3 or 4 feet, that becomes probably the limit. It's all speed and momentum at that point. How I get trained is on ITD's time. It's hard to find outsourced training for snowplow, and it's usually a state entity. They have a weed class to get you familiar with the truck, some online classes, but for the most part, a lot of the learning is behind the wheel. Plowing is pretty hard on the trucks, and we do inspections on them every 90 days, but in the winter, we do up that quite a bit. It's just one of those things where you inspect it every time you enter the vehicle, because the harsh conditions of plowing snow, it's easily damaged. To get good ideas, we will sit and have a storm brief, basically tips and tricks and what worked and what didn't work. So it's a lot of communication, especially when you're new, to get the pointers on what works and what doesn't. As far as I travel, we have a District 3, and I stay well within that area. There's approximately 18 sheds and 9 different foremen. Each foreman area has a area within District 3, so we typically stay in our own area, but we will travel outside and help other foremen when need be. I think Caldwell has 200 lane miles, to which about 7 guys are in charge of plowing. So it's typically weather dependent. Where is the weather? We will follow the weather. We use the same weather channel a lot of people use, such as radar, to really find out where we're going to go. We all have radios, so we're in constant communication for anything that's odd or comes up. So we usually run 2 12-hour shifts when it's snowing, and we're set up to plow 24/7 if need be. We split our manpower in half, and we have an AM and PM shift. When it's actually snowing, it's hard to tell really if you're on the road at some point. So if you ever notice the white little reflectors on the shoulder, that is really designed for us to visually see where the edge of the road is. Really, you're looking out for pedestrians and cars and stuff, so you're constantly trying to pay attention to a lot of different things. The footprint on this truck is probably close to probably a 15-foot pass. So it works good for multi-lane interstates and highways. We have a joystick which will control our plows. We have multiple plows on some trucks, a front plow and a wing plow that's on the right side of the truck. So there's a few buttons on the joystick. Each one, if you press it, it controls the front plow. Then you got control of your wing, and then you turn off your salt or mag application. And then we've got a blast button which ups the rate, which we will do that on spots. If we have like a bridge deck that we're just trying to spot treat, we can use that. And then the rest of the buttons are for, a lot of these trucks still have a dump bed on them, and it'll control the dump bed. And it will not control anything unless you pull the trigger on the front. That's kind of a safety. So I can move this around and it won't do anything until I want it to. So on the interstate, because it is a multi-lane road and it's all one direction, to get one good pass through, say like a 4 or 5 lane interstate, we'll use 4 or 5 trucks, and that clears the whole section off, and then we can break off from that point and treat other sections. So it's absolutely a tool we use to maintain multi-lane roads. I've been here 8 years plus, and you're expected to drive in some of the worst snow conditions on the road, and so I think it takes a certain type of person. I enjoy it, and it's just long driving hours. It's different every day for sure.
Well, TJ McNeff, thanks a lot for giving us so much of your time today. We know you're busy. It's winter here in Caldwell, and we appreciate you joining us on the Drive Idaho podcast.
No, Vince, I appreciate it. And everybody have a safe winter.
For those of you tuning in for the first time on the Drive Idaho podcast, we end all of our episodes with listener questions and a safety message. Since this is our first episode of this season, I want to reach out and ask you to send your questions, and we will try and answer them on future podcasts. Please email them to us at 84corridor@itd.idaho.gov. That's 84corridor@itd.idaho.gov. And as always, we like to send our listeners off with a safety message. This month, we are reminding you about Idaho's new hands-free law. The law was passed in July and goes into effect this month. It's now illegal to talk or text on a handheld device while driving, and this includes while you are stopped at traffic signals or stop signs. Starting this month, officers will be issuing citations. A first offense is $75, second offense is $150, and a third offense is $300 and a possible suspension of your license. So put down the phone and drive well, Idaho. Thanks to everyone who is joining us for season 3 of the Drive Idaho podcast. You can also visit us at itdprojects.org/84corridor or join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If anyone is not receiving I-84 updates via text or email, you can request those by texting 84 Corridor to 47177. For the latest road conditions, check 511.idaho.gov. And remember, folks, 2 hands on the wheel, your eyes on the road, and your mind on driving. Drive well, Idaho.